Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending where you are when you're watching this. This clip of time saved down into some type of imagery on a cloud somewhere and now delivered to you. It's called the Agents of Aquarius. This is who we are. This is what we're doing. We're delivering a new message into the world that shall help empower us into a new age, in a new direction that won't stand for evil. I am Jim Pine. That is my name in this incarnation, in this flesh body. And I am here with my best friend in the entire world, Matty D. We're here for you now. What the heck is up, brother?
Well, hey there, man. Good to be back in the action because we are in the action, aren't we?
Oh my God, we're Action Jackson. We are happening, dude. This is happening at a fast pace. Uh, I had a clock that did 60 seconds in a minute, and it now only has 30 seconds in a minute. It's moving fast. That's what I have to say to you.
High tech,
Um,
my brother. High tech.
yes, I'm finding you on the other side of Valentine's Day. I'm finding you here in the mid of February.
That indeed it is.
That's a weird word. February.
Well, we don't say
February.
February, but it's spelled February.
February.
It's like raspberries. It's a raspberry. Is that a raspberry?
Dude, did you just see the host, bro?
The what?
The host?
What host?
Dude, I don't know. It's hard to see
Oh,
these
it's just another
hosts.
one of those stupid fucking words. Sorry, I wasn't tracking. I thought you had a ghost story for me for
Hey,
a second.
no cursing in the first 10 minutes, dude.
Ah.
What is wrong
Someday.
with you? We're gonna go down to five listeners, bro. Like,
Sorry.
why are you doing this to us? We're already
My own
fighting
blessed mother told me to stop cursing so much on this podcast.
we're fighting an uphill battle, dude, against the jihadists, the cultural appropriates, the governmental agencies of hate and lack of true thought. And here we are just cursing, and then nobody gets to hear us because you had to just drop an F-bomb, like some type of like curse of terrorist.
You were tracking the time though, weren't you? Because you said we're at 30 seconds. I wonder if I landed within the first 60 seconds. Because
I
for
did
anyone who doesn't
actually.
know, that's kind of the rule. Don't curse in the first 60 seconds of your recording.
Well, I don't know because I just started it after you cursed because I was like, oh yeah, I got to know when we started because a lot of times I'm like, I think we started between this time and that time, and then I have to like figure it out. And if you've ever watched our podcast, you'll know that they are not like consynced on time. They're always like 30 some, 40 some, 50 some, maybe an hour plus. Who knows?
What is time anyway, though, Agent Pine? So we won't worry about that.
It's a
But
construct. It's a
we are
construct.
here. We are present. We are doing a little something, pushing back against dark forces.
We are, and that's just what we're today. Like, this is what we're doing. It's the weirdest thing because this whole concept was designed with like an idea of beauty and looking at the amazingness of the world and thinking about because we've studied so much in the different arts of like meditation and it's almost like we're kind of doing what you then said to me, which really hit me hard, spiritual bypassing. It's like because we have all this knowledge and it's like, are we really using it? You know?
Well, no, it's not even that exactly. The problem that you and I have both engaged in spiritual bypassing is you kind of like get your really deep meditations, you get really deep insights about life and the world and the universe and all these things, but then you completely miss the fact that almost did it, almost cursed. You miss the fact that
Frickin'. You're
you've
a
got your
frickin'.
own problems in your emotional psych psychological realm, and you skip fixing
Psyche.
yourself. Like, yeah, you jump ahead and you're like, oh God, I had such a deep insight about life, the world, and the universe, and all this crap, but you don't turn that intelligent discernment onto yourself, and you miss the fact that you got all kinds of psychological problems.
That's the world we live in, you know? I'm sorry, I'm breaking up a bud, so I can't have the
Do as you must, High Pine.
this is the world we live in. This is what we're caught in. And I'm gonna retract for a moment and quick shout out to old Mitchy D, Mama Deej, you know, shout out, praise and love. She was the coolest, bro. Your mom was the coolest because she allowed us she gave us a space where we could just like be ourselves.
Yeah, yeah, she was smart because we were all gonna everyone's moving out. But she's like, hey, you could stay, just go ahead and have your fun. So we would have keggers and stuff like that with all our friends at the house.
Free that though, even like her, because I forget, like I'm thinking she's dealing with us, but I forget she was dealing with Joey, your older brother, and Michelle, your older sister, and like yes, Maddie is the baby. And but the fact was she was so cool to us, but I was just dawning on me now. It's like, yeah, she'd already gotten broken by two other kids. So like she was like, yeah,
That's right.
not a problem, guys. Like she was already like, this is too much in the world. But your mom was literally like one of the most epic people. Like when I was growing up, she was like, I considered her to be a mom. Like she was so epic and so loving and so amazing, and
Well,
something I
yes,
didn't have in my
thank
world
you.
at all
Yes,
until
met your
I
mom.
met your mom. Your mom was those things.
All right. Now, and I'll throw in a quick funny story too. We would have keggers at the house, and she would be there. We would be on all in occupying one part of the house, and she'd be sitting in her little section. And my friends, my brother's sister's friends, like would randomly just roll up, sit down, sit on the couch, start rapping with my mom, and she'd rap with them. And it was the most normal thing.
It's so
Yeah.
normal, and not it never felt what's that word, like you're not doing good, like you're being like you're allowing bad to happen. I can't think of the word. You're not like whatever. Usually you pop right
No,
in with the
she
word.
she was not allowing bad things to happen. She was there as a ultimate voice of reason, and shit never flew off the handle because we had a responsible adult in the room.
Yeah,
Not in the room,
and
but just
she
at
didn't
our
party though.
presence in the house.
She did not party. She had her glasses on with a book,
She
and she'd
never
put her
drank a
book
sip of
down.
alcohol.
Yeah, she'd put her book in her lap, and then she might talk with the people, and then she might leave if she felt like everything was cool, and then like, but yeah, she let shit go down. Oh, I cursed.
Yeah,
She let
but
things go down in a really cool way, and it was awesome.
yeah. So shout out to Mama D. Thanks, Mom. I love you.
Yeah, shout out Mama Day. She was the best. Awesome. Yeah, huge part of my life, and I'm thankful for her. Now we move on.
No, yeah, well, take us back to having a little something to do in the world because we both just listened to a podcast recently where the person talking was like, things are gonna just, people are gonna understand how corrupt and dark and evil this world is, and what can you look back and say you did while it was going on? Are you going to be someone who could stand up and be like, hey, you know what? I spoke up whenever I could about, the lies and the bullshit and the manipulations. And that's what the show is. You're talking about what the show is. The show is pushing back against that system. And I just encourage anyone to start these conversations or encourage these conversations because at least you could look back 10, 20 years from now and say, hey, I was pushing back against this giant machine of death and destruction and manipulation and narrative management and conning and robbing people of their wealth. We push back against it.
Yeah,
So
tyranny,
join us.
slavery, debt slavery. Oh, we call it banking. It's debt slavery. Like,
Technically, I
uh,
mean, it is.
dude, it doesn't dawn on you like when I do my credit processing for my company that I own, and like, oh, cool. Well, they just take 3.25%, and then you do that over the whole year, and it's like, why do you get $1,500? Why do you get like $3,000 from me a year just for processing? Like you already are charging me to use your little invoicing site, like $40 a month I pay or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm doing that. And then on top of that, if I receive electronic funds, which nobody has to do shoot for, It just happens. But they're like, no, 3.25% of 3.75%, whatever it is. That stuff is smashing small businesses right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've recently was purchasing somewhere and they're like, well, we're gonna have to charge you buying tires for my car. Got a great deal on them. Saved like $400 or $500, brand new. My trucks had the exact same. It's 3 sets of tires now, the exact same set of tires each time, like factory Toyota. And at the end of the deal, it was like, it's like a $750 purchase. And they're like, well, oh, you're not paying cash? Well, then we have to add a 3.75%.
They added the credit card processing fee to your purchase.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And I used to be told that was illegal, but now I was just like, I literally was like, yeah, that totally makes sense. You're trying to give me a great deal. But here you are on the other side. When you charge me, now you lose money from the deal we just did because it doesn't get added on. It's
No,
not
those are
3.2.
the shiesty credit card processors. They offer a business owner like, hey, we're going to get you this killer rate. It'll save you thousands of dollars a year. And guess what? You're just passing off the same processing fee to your customers instead of you paying it. It's shiesty as shit. And
That's the
those
world we
guys
live
fell
in.
for it. They fell for it.
But that's that evil banking. I mean, this podcast might just go all over the world. Also, I love to know that we record on such regularity and that my garbage man is so regular because when we're recording, it's generally like we're talked for a little while and then he shows up and then I wait until he just went by to start the recording. But today we started early, talked for like an hour and a half before we even started the podcast. And now here is my garbage man
Thank you, garbage man.
on our
Appreciate
Friday.
you, sort of.
The regularity. Well, thank you tons for
No,
thank
I
you
know,
for
I
showing
know.
up and taking care of my refuse. But
That
no,
was
these
my dream job as a child. When they asked me that question, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a fucking garbage man, bro, because I want to ride on the back of the truck.
I wanted to be garbage man also. I didn't know that. I didn't know that's what you wanted to be. I wanted to be a fireman for the reason of the back of the truck, but I wanted to be a garbage man is what I said is my dream job was at like 4 years old, 5 years old, because they wore cool gloves.
Oh, okay. There you go. You got the gloves, you're on the back of the truck. I mean, now all trash trucks are automated with the little hook that comes down and picks up the bin, and everyone's like, what are these guys even talking about? But back up into the 90s, you don't have to go much farther back. And
2000s.
2000s, yeah, there was a guy who would be standing on a little platform at the back of the truck, and he would step off and he'd pick up the can and dump the trash in the truck.
I feel like when times were really good, it was two guys on the back.
That that is my memory as I see it. There are two guys.
When I remember and think back deeply, it was two guys doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was one guy driving. So it's 3 men on a trash truck, all getting paid
Yeah.
to go around and do this. And God bless technology, because there's probably been billions of dollars that's gone out, and you don't even think about this, but there's billions of dollars have gone out in lawsuits for trash truck guys going to pick up a can when it's too heavy, and you don't
Mhm.
realize you're about to pick up a can that's heavier than you're used to picking. You'll like actually throw your back out. You'll hurt your back pretty bad. So there's been countless lawsuits for back injuries for these guys.
Hmm.
So technology is really beautiful that they've now have it. But the thing is, it's not even, and wherever you're at, I guarantee you, it's a private corporation that's picking up your trash with one guy in an automated truck. And then when we grew up, it was 3 dudes working for the municipality or whatever your where you lived was called. Most things are called a municipality or a township. And it was 3 guys that all lived there. And they
That's
got
right.
paid, and they
Yeah.
got health insurance, and their wife got health insurance, and then the baby was born, and it cost them $25. And now it's one guy that works for a private corporation, and the townships have all like subsidized it out to private companies.
Yeah. And let's back it up for a second too. We grew up on the Jersey Shore. We grew up at the beach. Now, granted, it's a cold beach in the winter, but we grew up at the beach. And in the 80s, when we were teenagers, not the 70s when we were kids, but in the 80s as teenagers, you could be a carpenter, a teacher, a blue collar worker, and you could own a house on that island, or at least have the mortgage, I should say. Like you could make it work. And nowadays it's a joke. Like the whole joke about like, oh, millennials or don't want to work or Gen Z doesn't want to work. And then someone who's Gen Z or millennial comes forward and says, yeah, dummy, because we'll work two jobs and still not make enough money where you had it so good that you could own a house on Long Beach Island if you're the trash man.
The
This is the
trash,
system
yeah.
that has beaten everyone to death. And this is take it back to what you said about banking. That's what you dubbed correctly the triform system of control: banking, intelligence agencies, and armies. But focus on that banking for a second, because they're taking fees to the tune of thousands of dollars from small businesses and cutting down their margins. They're taking fees from everyone who uses a debit card. They're taking fees left, right, and center. You overdraw your account, it's $35, $40. All they're doing is running things to such an extent that they keep whittling away everything that makes a middle class life possible. And that is the big arm of control in this country and Western civilization, probably the world, I guess. But this is the thing, like the first part of the battle that you're going to butt heads with. Like the first part of the battle where the first clash happens, it's with this banking system. And if we had any sense as a culture, we would make it illegal to do usury. We'd make it illegal to charge these exorbitant fees. We would have banks that were rational and in control and made the kind of money that normal people make, and not this multi-billion-dollar enterprise for a CEO of Chase Manhattan or some of that crap.
BlackRock, Larry Fink.
Oh, don't even get me started on them, and I won't, but
Well, we might. We don't even know we're
might.
going. Hey, everybody behind the scenes, we're so tight. Me and Matt are so tight. We're so on the same wavelength. We might have a couple little things written down about what we do on this podcast, and then we just roll. We literally then just come at you with full force of vengeance, knowledge, power, and discipline. Just the energy of God flows through us as we start and do this speaking engagement with you. And here we are. We're talking about garbage man. Why garbage man? Because you can't even be a garbage man anymore. You can't even be we're losing it. We're losing all faculties of like society where we can be in an idea and be in a place where like a man can just have a job, a living wage, and his wife can be home and homeschooling their 3 children, and he can pay his mortgage, and they can go on vacation 2 times a year, and 3 times, because one time they go camping, and then an extended weekend, because he gets 14 holidays a year and he knows how to use his holidays right, and he gets 4. He makes President's Weekend a 4-day weekend, and they go camping in the Adirondacks. You can't on President's Weekend. It's so cold in the Adirondacks. But we used to live in a world where you could do this, but now it's the dad has to work, the mom has to work, the dad's like collecting cans on the side, the ones he drinks, because he has to drink so much, because he's like disillusioned with this whole life that he's like part of, while he loves his wife and he loves his children, but he's watching it fall apart because, God forbid, one of his children decide they're confused about life, and then there's like, hey, and dude, we're in the craziest time. I would probably say, I'm sure all times seem crazy, but since Rome, since the last fall of a true civilization, I think we're at that part. We've hinted at this before. We're not doomsday people. We're not trying to spread any type of fear in any way. None of anything we've said today is based in fear or that we think give up. No, we have to move on. But we have reached a point in this civilization where we are so deluded and it's so polluted that people like me and Maddie got to stand up and then just start telling people like, hey, are you paying attention? Are you looking around? Do you know what's happening? I like really, it just really is a great, really with a question mark, capital letters, all of them. It's just like where we're at right now. It's just like, really? Like I sat on stage last night. No, I didn't sit. I was standing. I was standing on stage last night and I stood out to the crowd. Something happened. I had a lady started kind of heckling. She had like a good smoker, raspy smoker voice. And she was talking about drugs and she was funny. The stuff she was saying was very funny. And then I like called her, like, I'm like, obviously you'll vote for Trump from the things she was saying. And then the crowd laughed and all. And they all laughed. And I was like, yo, why are you laughing at her? I was like, what? What? Do you guys vote for the B word, bro? Did you guys see all down with the B word? Who's voting for the B word? And silence, complete and utter 100% silence of a crowd of 50-ish people, 40 or 50-ish people, and complete silence. And I was just like, and it dawned on me. I was like, nobody likes the B word. Nobody wants to vote for the T word because they're all like, we're in the place of lesser of two evils. We are literally in the place of like people like, I don't want to vote for that one, but don't make me vote for that one to vote against that one.
Does that piss you off having to vote for evil?
It does. That's why I wrote Kanye's name in last time. And he might be
You
evil
wrote him in?
also. Yeah, he might be. I'm going to be honest with you, dude. I smoke so much weed. I'm not sure if I wrote his name in or if I voted for Trump. I might have done both to just disqualify my whole ballot. I'm not kidding. This is not a joke. This is, I mean, it is funny. Yeah, sometimes you can not tell a joke and it can still be funny. This is not a joke. I'm not sure who I voted for. I either voted for Trump or I voted for Kanye. I might have voted for both and went like, yeah, let's just do that. Like, so this doesn't even count.
I threw a third party vote personally.
That was my Kanye vote.
He's more like an eighth party vote. He's like ESPN Ocho vote for
Well,
Kanye.
when we grew up, we were just speaking about growing up in this era when we were younger, and people didn't talk about these things. They didn't talk about who they voted for. They wouldn't say who they voted for. Nobody said stuff. Maybe we should go back to that. But until then, who did you vote for?
Oh, I just cast the Green Party vote. I'll get into that in a second, but the point of all that reminiscing about when we're young is you could have made a living, God, what is now 40 years ago, by working just a regular job, and you could have all the things that a job should bring. But we've been getting that degraded. And in 40 years, we've degraded quite a bit. And I want to take everyone back to one of those things we talk about. Like, one of the biggest lies out there is that everything just is the way it is. And this is an organic evolution of our society, and that is completely false. Don't ever let yourself think that or believe that, because it's a manufactured society. It's a manufactured economy. It's all a bunch of BS. And
He's there, everybody.
Don't have to accept.
You can't see him, but he's there.
Just had technical problems. You don't have to accept that the way things are is because that's just the way it is. That is a bunch of BS. It is a manufactured culture that we live in, and definitely a manufactured economy.
I'm gonna add. I want to add a little comedy to this.
Throw it in.
Which is going to sound crazy because I'm about to bring up slavery. But could you imagine how heavy it was when slavery? Well, right now we're in debt slavery, right? You know what? This totally works out. If you're listening to this podcast, you've already probably have hit the point where like you can see past like slavery and all this stuff and start to try to understand the bigger dynamic. But can you understand like during slavery how much they must have been like, well, it's just the way it is. Like how much
it's just the way it is.
That must have been the most commonly used term ever. Like, hey man, this is bullshit. Why the fuck am I your slave? And you're like, well, it's just the way it is.
So all the more reason to not believe it, because that just drives the point home that that's been the argument of the controllers forever.
That's my point.
Forever.
That's my point.
Good point, bro. Good point. So yeah, so you don't need to believe that. You should definitely understand that our economy is manufactured and manipulated the same as our whole goddamn culture is. But the banks are one of these major tools to keep power concentrated in the hands of a small amount of people. So, now that I finished the banking rant, I do want to real quick drop a quick note about voting third party. I can't stand this whole idea of the lesser of two evils because, frankly, I don't want to engage in anything evil. I'm trying to cut that out. I don't want to be the evil guy. And I don't want to vote for evil people either and support them with my vote or my speaking or whatever. So I vote third party these days. I would have voted third party in 08 and 12, but I fell for that shit about
Change.
yeah, I fell for it. Even at the time I was casting a vote for Obama in 2008, I knew in 2008, it's like, no, I want to vote for Ron Paul. Not saying that's the right guy, the wrong guy, whatever. It's just who I had at the time. Want to vote for someone other than one of these two major parties, but I fell for the thing where it's like, oh, if you don't vote for this guy, then the badder person is going to get in. So I voted for Barack Obama. I've regretted it ever since. But the reason I want to encourage people to vote third parties because you give that person leverage in the halls of power in Washington. If you vote the Green Party this year and the Green Party go ahead and let's say they pull 10% of the votes on some miracle, the Green Party gets 10% of the votes. And when the election between the two major parties is decided by 2, 3, 5%, these elections are so close that if you have a party that captures 10% of the vote, they have leverage in Washington. They could, let's say that's what plays out. You got B versus T. It's decided with 3 points, but at the same time, the Green Party gets 10% of the vote. Now the Green Party can go into whatever administration has won that election, walk into their offices in Washington and say, hey, look, we're the guys who have 10% of the vote. We're going to sway the next election. If you want us to back you, give us Medicare for all, give us $15 minimum wage, give us this, give us that. And you make your demands. And when that next election comes around, if those people you didn't make your demands to, you go against them and you take your 10% against them and you run against them. If they gave you the things you want, then you give them the 10% and you let them win again because it actually gave something to people who, to things that people actually need. That's why I vote third party. That's why I think it's not a waste of a vote. As soon as you show the electorate that a third party getting a decent percentage of the votes has leverage to get things for the people, assuming that party is there for the people.
Do you think that's when they'll F up with their cheating? Because like so far they have a like just like a bookie in Vegas. They have a line. They understand like it's going to be like 56.2%. They have this stuff down from polling. Like they stopped doing exit polls because the exit polls wouldn't match the real polls.
Yeah, well, the results, the exit
I'm sorry,
polls don't
the
match the
exit
results.
polls wouldn't. Yeah, so they would stop doing exit polls because the exit polls wouldn't match the results of the election, which would show like what's going on.
That
Like,
cheating happened. Hey, just for context, let's get clear on something. Are you referring to the 2000 George Bush win where they cheated in Florida, or are you referring to the 2016 Trump win where Russia handed the election, the American people over to Trump, or are you talking some kind of weird conspiracy?
or the
What are you?
2020 election where they stopped counting the votes and then all of a sudden the votes came in and it was, is there a spider in my head? If
No,
you're at
bro.
home and you could see, like, if there was a spider in my head, that's weird. And I hope y'all saw it because it felt like twice there was a spider on my head.
Yo, I listened to a really clever person speaking about the 2020 election. He's like,
Jimmy
not,
Dore.
no, it wasn't him, although he spoke about it plenty and he did a really good job of breaking that down. But this person was like, he's like, I'm not saying there's any cheating going on, but if you ever wonder why those Trump people thought there was cheating, he's like, here's the thing that happened. They stopped taking votes in 5 key counties in 5 swing states at midnight. And then they picked it up again. They resumed voting at 6 a.m. and magically something like 90% of the votes that came in went to Biden.
Yeah.
And that is, I believe, a statistical impossibility. It was just such outrageous horseshit. And the guy was very smart because he's like, not saying there's cheating, but if you want to know why people got angry, and that's a really good reason to get angry when you think about it. It's like, wait a minute. The 5 key counties in the 5 swing states stopped counting at midnight. And when they picked it up again, magically all 5 key counties and 5 swing states swung the other direction. That's why people say there was cheating going on. That's why there are a lot of angry people with the 2020 election results.
Yeah, I mean, we're caught in the middle of chaos while we're supposed to be having some type of democratic election in a constitutional republic, and it all seems like bull nuts. It seems like junk, dude. It's cockamamie, cornbread, bunk ass. But it just we're in the BS world. We live in the upside down. We live in the inverted. We live in a place where they're like, oh, here's the here's your election results. It's like that doesn't check out.
It doesn't check out, dude.
People who voted in from their homes, they all are Democrats. There was only 17 Republicans that voted in. So it's just, it's just all Democrats.
No,
What's wrong
even
with
worse,
that?
really well-paid smart people who take jobs at think tanks will come up with reasons that sound like they make sense to tell you why there's no election fraud, why the American elections are so honest. I love how for 4 years all we had to listen to was like Russian the Russian government gave the election to Trump. Like all we heard for years was Russia gave it to Trump. And then when the other side starts talking about how they got cheated, suddenly it's like the most taboo subject. Now, as a Republican, Democratic, agnostic, I don't care for either one of these parties. Where'd you go? Space.
Where
Um,
am I?
no, ignore that last bit. But after having had to listen to one side complain about the results for 4 years, and then that same group of people say, how dare you question our election integrity? It bugs the shit out of me that I have to listen to it. I don't care if someone got cheated or didn't, ultimately, because the two parties answer to the same set of sorry, I'm laughing because I think he got attacked by a spider in that one. Yeah, I saw it coming down on its web. It's coming down and land right in your head. No, but it's just like, how is it such a taboo to talk about election interference in 2020, but it was so the norm in 2016 and for the 4 years that followed it? It just bugs the hell out of me because I want consistency, and you can't get it from this uniparty political shenanigan, psyop that's happening out of DC.
What we need to do, I'm gonna backtrack here.
Back me up, man.
Because everything you're saying,
Politely though.
I will back you up on everything you're saying. But and I will also now retract and think about anybody listening. And then this is also to you, Matt, because you're listening. You're listening presently. Everybody else is going to listen later, but you're like presently listening.
So I'm ahead of those masses of
If
people. Good,
if
go.
if you get that icky feeling, if you're ever in life and you're somewhere and you get that icky feeling, maybe go to the car, maybe leave the place you're at. It's okay to put the things down. You don't know what's about to happen. And I'm not painting any picture. The picture could literally just be running into an ex that you have no want to deal with in any way. It could be running into an old neighbor who did you wrong. I'm not trying to paint like crazy pictures here.
You could be getting robbed too, but
Well,
put that aside.
no, well, no. We live in a
Keep it
society.
simple. No, you're talking about following the icky feeling.
The moment I started talking, it's like, oh wait, what's he like? I'm not even going to paint the pictures of like how evil things can get. But the idea is like we need to pay more attention to our intuition and know like or start to trust ourselves enough that then we can then know and not believe and realize like we're in a situation that's really toxic. And the only way out of this situation is to break up and like get rid of the toxic thing. Normally it'd be like a person, but it could be a thing, because that could be like, alcoholism or drugs or anything else, or like
Hmm.
a tyrannical government. But, you know, we need to stop just being in a relationship with these people because we're like, well, this is the way it is. It's like, no, we need better. We need better. You want me to go take my time that I trade for money and then have to give you a portion of my money in taxes so that you can then spend that money on the people that give you the taxes, but then you take that money and spend it on giant defense, but it sounds more like an offense
It's an offense, all
out
right.
in the whole world. You're just spending great billions of dollars. Right now, we have a tax bill stuck because the Senate said, yeah, let's go. And then the Speaker House was like, no, I don't think so. We're not doing this one. Because you want to send $60 billion to Ukraine. You want to give $10 billion to Israel, $3 billion to Gaza. Gaza's the size of my asshole, dude. Like straight up. You get 3 billion. Hey, Maui, go fuck yourself.
Yeah, nothing for the people of this country.
50 million dollars. Sounds like a big number. If we held 50 million, we'd be like, whoa, my garage is
50
filled with
million with an M. Yeah.
my whole garage is filled with money. Black out the windows. What are we doing? Don't let anything catch fire. Turn off the electric to the house. And this is what we're in. You know how we got here? Lesser of two evils. This is my
Oh,
point. My
boom.
point comes back to, we have been just dealing with evil, choosing lesser of two evils, but still receiving evil right in our little butthole, like just right up it, like just drive, no lube, sand in hand, just no, make it aggressive. That's what we've received for the last 70-ish
100
years.
years.
70 because it was in the obscure for about 20. The first 20 they hid it. And then the next 20 they still try. They've continued to try to hide it, but in the very, very beginning, we didn't even realize. The day we laid in bed with Nazis, that's the day this country went down. And that's not even true, because actually 40 plus years before, well, a little more than 40 years before, 30 years before, we joined with a banking cartel, and that just destroyed us, dude. That destroyed us. They destroyed us.
It's
They
a
gave it, the Great Depression came 10 years later. So we make bed with these dirty bankers, and then 10 years later you have the Great Depression.
mhm.
Then 10 years after that, uh or 20 years after that, you start having the World War II, because you
Yeah.
already survived the First World War. That's why they came in 1913, so that they could support us in 1917, so we could go join World War One and spend a shoot ton of money on guns
Well,
and ammo to
probably by no
kill people.
coincidence, that World War started a year after the US got its Federal Reserve because all that money is tied together. As soon as you get the United States economy under your thumb, then you could have your war in Europe. Now, like
Hey
you were
man,
breaking down this sequence of events. 1913, they make the Federal Reserve. They put it in charge of our economy. Essentially, they print our money and charge us interest to do it. Um,
we'll look.
1947, they open up the CIA. The OSS transforms into the CIA. And under Operation Paperclip, they bring out literal Nazis by the thousands into our elite organizations and high up government organizations.
Shout out.
1970,
Hold on. Shout
yes.
out. Shout out
Mm.
Papa Mall for teaching me how to play chess.
That was a Nazi, wasn't it?
Yeah, Nazi rocket scientist that worked at um Fort Dix. Was that the one that was up
Fort
near
Dix, New
Lakewood?
Jersey. Yeah,
Yeah, Fort
Lakewood. Yeah,
Dix. Yeah, Fort Dix. He was a
yeah.
rocket
He
scientist at Fort Dix, but he lived in the trailer park where I lived, and his wife babysat me because my parents were teenagers and or low 20s at that point. And yeah, I got babysat by Nana Mall, but then there's Papa Mall. And I guess I always said it thinking it was Mall, but it could have been Mawl or something like that.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Could have been Darth Maul.
complete German. And if I have to describe Papa Mall, I can't describe Mama Mall. It's just too hard because it's like this weird little lady, which she'd always wear like a bandana like over
Yeah.
her hair. Like I remember her with a bandana because she didn't want to do her hair, so she probably just put a bandana, but it was probably like some type of scarf or some shit. Shoot, but Papa Mall, 100% uh from Hogan's Heroes. Who the big guy?
Colonel Klink or Sergeant Schmidt.
Sergeant Schultz. Sergeant
Schultz.
Schultz.
That's it. Sergeant
Sergeant
Schultz.
Schultz. He looked exactly like Sergeant Schultz, bro. Big,
Amazing. Art
big,
imitates
just
life, or vice versa.
big giant man. And yeah, he taught me how to play chess. And I play the most if you play me in chess, I am so obscure and like crazy. Like it pisses people off that are really good at chess, but they usually beat me anyway and figure it out.
Well, now look at that. So here's you got a guy when you were a kid. Um, you were pals with a paper clipped Nazi rocket scientist. I know a person who is a shaman, who is, among other things, but she's told me directly, it's like, yeah, my father was a German engineer who got roped into the Nazi party. And after the war, he got, they came to this country. And I asked her quite directly to her face, I'm like, so he was paper clipped from Germany to the US. And she's like, yeah, exactly. That's here's two people on one show who happen to know, each of us happens to know somebody who knows someone, or someone who was someone. It's like this lady I know, her dad was a Nazi working in Germany and he got offered a job here. Your chess teacher or whatever he is,
Papa Mall.
Papa Mall, was a Nazi who got offered a job in the rocket program here. Everyone
Yeah.
knows who Werner von Braun is. He was the guy who was in charge of the V2 rockets that were lobbed into London all through the end of the war. These are really bad people, but the CIA brought these people in and put them in positions of power all over our government. They allowed them to staff their organizations with people that they would vouch for. So that's even more of their culture coming into this country. But you were talking about the steady progression, the steady degradation of this country. It's the it's the Federal Reserve. It's that's your control of the economy. It's this all these Nazis coming into our intelligence agencies. That's the control of your intelligence agencies. I don't know how far it went into our military, but it certainly ruled NASA because Werner von Braun ran NASA.
It's
You know,
the
this
industrial complexes also. It's the military, the pharmaceutical, like all these industries took off in great ways where it became like uh people just were like, oh, this is the way it is, and would believe in the BS of it. And then we ended up with where we're at. We're in the middle of a complete and utter, I mean, the amount of money our country spends, our country, meaning the United States of America, the amount they spend on defense, which is really offense, just being out in the world all over the place, and then also looking at future upgrades and new ideas of military and destruction upon the world equipment, is in the hundreds of billions, if not even maybe $1 trillion a year. This is what they spend just trying to like get into it. And this is where we're at now. We're caught on the end of the billing cycle of a group of people that are going so crazy, just spending money on defense of what? like each other. Jeez, come on, man. But then in the process, they've learned that, like, oh, we could also just propagate and then learn about the people here. Yeah. And then we could actually then direct the people and send them in a certain direction because of, uh, we're going to change the Smith-Mundt Act, in 2013. So we do that. Now we can let's just make the people think other things that have nothing to do with nothing, and direct them into a narrative where they get confused and they don't even understand the world anymore. That's where we're at. I can't hear you. You're muted.
Sorry, no, no longer muted. No, I think they don't know where it's at. And I think this is why we need to do this and why this show has been such a big bitch session about all the problems going on in the world. Because here's two things that we're breaking down here. One is you got an $800 billion a year military budget. But then now that's your military side, but then this banking side, in the $33 trillion debt, there's $1 trillion a year being paid in interest. Like, you want to know where your money's going. $1 trillion a year goes to paying bankers interest on loans that we should never have taken. And then 800 billion a year goes to a military that we don't need to spend 800 billion a year on. And again, the reason why this is just such like a giant, like just so frustrated with this thing is because if all of us collectively knew how this system worked and where our money was going and the way to, if you know what you're dealing with, you can start to figure out how to break it down. And so much of this show goes into talking about what we're dealing with before we ever get to being able be, talking about how to break it down. This third party voter thing, that's like a stab in the dark, honestly, to think how to break this system down. Like, you give a third party a percentage of the votes so they could sway an election, maybe you can get some concessions. But ultimately, you got to get to the bottom of this banking situation. You got to get to the bottom of this dirty intelligence agency situation. You got to get to the bottom of this inflated military budget situation. This is the triform system of control: the banks, the intelligence agencies, and the military. And recognizing how these three industries work together and are ultimately controlled by the same people, who are the same people pulling the strings on our politicians, who own our legislators. Recognizing this system for what it is the starting point for doing something about it. But when I could talk to them blue in the face, but people don't seem to know how the system works. Like, you ask people, it's like, hey, person in the street, how's the world run? Like, how's the shit work? They're mostly going to think like, well, you got different governments in competition with each other, maybe for resources or money or something like that. And it's like, no, the governments are not the system of control on this planet. They are a method of control that is ruled over by a class of people that operate above it.
Yeah, I mean, we're literally dealing with, like, oh, who runs the world? Oh, governments. No, no. It's exactly what you were just saying.
Yeah.
It's run by banks that tell governments what the frickin' do.
Yeah.
Like, it's a bunch of people that loan money to other people. Loan sharks are like running the world, basically, is what it comes down to. And they try to keep their predatory lending at a certain number so it doesn't become actually illegal. But it's only because they created a number. At some point, the loan sharks literally gave money to government officials to then create laws that would say you can't loan past this percent because that's illegal. So the dudes that were coming up with, like, what number, they're like, and you know what the number I bet is? I'm going to tell you right now what the number is. The number is the amount within like 3% of when people revolt and say, F you, I'm coming for you. And that's what I bet that number of predatory lending is, within 3%. Because they're like, okay, listen,
They got to figure it out, is what you're saying.
we're crazy. All right. We are crazy for what we're doing, but we can't do 1%. Like, it would be nice to have the extra 2%, but let's, because we ran the numbers and we asked the smartest people we know, and they said, well, you want to have a little cushion. And they said, oh, cushion? And they're like 3%. That's the cushion, not 1%. We're not going to go right to the line. We'll keep it at 3%. And then through controlling the intelligence agencies throughout the world, they then can control it and keep it right there, right at the line, like
Right at the
right there.
line.
Say the number is 33 because they love threes and threes.
They do love that 33.
Unfortunately, this idiot loves threes too. It's a powerful number. And they have then said, like, we'll just narratively create it and keep them at 30. We'll go 29. If it gets crazy, it's 31. Back it up, back it up, back it up. Keep them at 30%. That's when they work. And then give us a third of their money.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. That's why he was a carpenter. He worked for cash only, I heard. He was like,
Smart
I'm
guy.
only doing cash.
Not paying my
That's it.
taxes.
Yeah, only cash, no debt, pay up front. You want me to do it? What you want? What
Yeah,
you
and on
want?
the side, I've got this mushroom sex cult you could join up with, and I'm sorry about the future when it gets turned into something else.
Hey man, but I'll give you a killer picture window. You want a picture window looking over the valley? You can see where Moses, he was with the bush and it was burning right over there. We'll clear this whole wall out. You have a whole, but it's gonna be 1,800 cash. All right, the
Yeah,
windows.
and bro, let's get clear on them again because we got to revisit sometimes who they are. They are groups of billionaires who organize themselves and they meet at places like the World
Davos.
Economic Forum at in
In
Davos.
Davos,
There are
Switzerland.
people,
Davos, Switzerland. Everybody, I just wanted to say this out. I'm not when I say Davos, it's like, oh, they went to planet Davos. Oh, da, da, da. No, Davos, Switzerland. Continue.
yeah, Davos, Switzerland at the World Economic Forum. These are the people that started the Council on Foreign Relations, which is a bunch of bankers and industrialists. These are the people who later formed up the Trilateral Commission, which is all the rich people and the government people and the intelligence heads. These people meet and they organize, and they're the ones who own the banks that you well spokenly said control things because the people who own the banks, they own BlackRock, they own State Street Capital, they own the investment firms. They control the corporations through the leverage they have through the banks and their investment firms. There's a small group of people on this planet who have so much influence through the corporations that are owned by these corporations and they're managed by these banks that are managed by the Bank of International Settlements. You know, it's a giant pyramid scheme, a pyramid structure, maybe we should call it, but it's
A,
run by
pyra-
very
a
it's run by a very
pyramid,
small class
a
of people.
pyramid is a structure.
A pyramid is a structure. You know what?
Can
Absolutely.
continue.
Is it a
Can
pyramid scheme or a pyramid structure? I don't know.
can no, it's a fucking we call it a scheme. I bet scheme is fucking Yiddish for structure. Continue.
All right.
Scheme.
It's a scheme, it's a structure. Yeah.
I took you out
But
of your
the
thought.
point a little bit, I'm gonna get it back though.
Well,
The
Matt,
point is there are people who are organized and they have groups of them. There's just groups of them. Like I said, it's the World Economic Forum, it's the Council on Foreign Relations, it's the Trilateral Commission. There are all these organizations. They go to the Bilderberger meetings, they go to the Bohemian Grove. I'm not saying they're all coordinated together and they're all on the same team. Like I'm pretty well convinced that these people compete against each other too, but they're all working a different game than we're working. We as normal people think that there's countries with governments and that they have borders and that they decide how things are determined. And meanwhile, behind the scenes, all that has become irrelevant since the end of World War II. Globalism has taken over the scene. It's not about nations and borders. Our own border is a good example, but it's about the control that these people exert through these banks, through these banking cartels, through these corporations, through the organizations like the Trilateral Commission, where they come up with schemes to ensure their own power. This is the world we live in. This is the world that I really, more than anything, want people to start to understand. It's not about nations and borders. It's about money as the primary power lever. And behind that money, you have intelligence agencies who will kill people. And behind that power structure, you've got militaries that will mow down entire countries. But it's all run by the same people that have been at it for a long time. I really think it's hereditary too, and that this money is controlled by um, hereditary influence. I know there's changes that happen, but I think on the whole, people whose families have been running shit 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 300 years ago, I think those families are still really, really influential in this business of how our world is run.
Hereditary influence. Everybody.
Ooh, is
I
that a
want
new one?
everybody hereditary influence. I'm writing this down. I'm
Put
sorry.
it right next to triform system of control.
I actually, I'm gonna lie right now, but I'm gonna say it's exactly next to triform. It's just above it. I don't know why I wrote it up there because I was expecting more to happen. I think it's because more might happen. But hereditary influence. Wow. Who are they? When people say, anybody listening, when people say to you, what do you mean? Who are they? All you have to say is this thing that the genius of the 21st century, they known as Matthew, I'm saying your name right now, De Gennaro, the great philosopher Matthew De Gennaro, he actually summed up who they are, and they are the hereditary influence. I've never. This podcast will now. We'll see, because AI actually writes our podcast notes mostly,
It's
and then
not stream of thought from two
no,
old friends.
yeah,
It's something different.
no, Matt then
Oh, the description, the show description.
Matt,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, Matt then influences the show description and changes it because you can, but AI tells us what this is all about. But to me, oh my god, hereditary influence.
Of the ruling class,
That's
bro.
never been said before. I've never heard you say that before. Hereditary influence. We are
I
talking
take it.
about, yeah, this, no, take a bow, please. Like, this is a moment of time. It's a hereditary influence. It's these people, because of money, they do what their families want to do, and the families keep doing what the idea was to do, and they keep pushing it 100 years forward, like, oh, well, this is what we're going to do. So the family goes towards what they're going to do, and they always just push 100 years forward. But there's probably a big span too of like, this is what we're trying to get to. But if we do it every 100 years, we'll win, because that's like 2 to 3 generations of people. And in that time, you can bypass everything. You can change laws, you can change a country, you can change anything, you can change history, change it all.
Mm-hmm.
It's because of hereditary influence. These people that have such a hereditary line that's paid attention to, and they have mammoth skulls in their houses that they're not supposed to have. And but this is what it is. It's hereditary influence. And my greatest question is, this is probably what this whole podcast is about. It's not. It's not what this podcast is about, but this is like a big sticking point. How do we change it? How do we break down the hereditary influence? I think
Of the
that's what this
ruling class.
I think that's what this all comes about. I think this whole thing's about, how do we break down the hereditary influence of the
Well,
triform?
well, brother, we're walking of the triform, no less. Yeah. We're walking in the footsteps of greater minds than ours that have done this already. You understand your society and culture for what it is, and you understand where the problems are. And once you identify that, then you can start to make it better. But we got to get more people on board to understand how this shit really works. It's a
That
triform system of control.
Is that why we're here? We're just trying to
Maybe.
deliver a message, and we hope that people could spread this message and look at this podcast not as a way where you have to look at like, oh, we bring on an expert every week, and we always have an expert of a certain area, and they look at this thing and then they break it down. I'm all about that. That's what I listen to also. But I think what we're doing is like, we're trying to like break all of the podcasts, break all of the things, break all of the differences, break it down so that you can understand, like, no, this is like, when it comes down to it, this is a spiritual event that's happening. And if you can get locked into the spirituality and you can meditate and you can understand that this is a like a plasma like world of imagination that happens in a manifesting way, and there's a group of people on this planet surrounded by animals and creatures of all sorts and all different types of nature, but there's this one creature that are the grand manifestors, and they're the creator of the world.
Mm.
Because we literally went in a scientific experiment where they send like an electron through a slit. When they do this, one thing happens. When they do this and somebody observes it, different thing happens. Meaning somebody, a body, a human form observes a scientific experiment where the science just shows it's like bing, 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 bing. And then once we look at it, it goes, it
It becomes
splits.
something else.
It becomes something else because we become the creator of the Bing. We are the moment of things changing. And
Yeah,
we are
man.
the creators of this world.
It's the scientific support for the concept of manifestation.
That's us. That's the human. Human. The creator of the manifestation of this realization of a world.
I love it. Well
Holy
put, my friend.
cow.
Well put.
Holy cow. That
I'm
would be,
glad
I
you're
bet.
feeling it.
I wonder what I'm gonna find out later what the actual saying is, like in Hindu, because it would be Sanskrit probably or Hindi of holy cow. Oh, Janga ga. Like it's like something like
I think it just made up that noise.
no, like it
You're
was
making up sounds.
Janga da, like Janga da, like oh God, like
Holy cow.
oh God. I think oh God is probably what they say in Sanskrit, but then it gets translated into English and it's holy cow.
Nicely put, brother. Nicely put.
What the heck is going on, man? I think we caught ourselves in the middle of a dilemma, and we're like not going to just go along with the dilemma. I feel like that's where we're at. Me and you are being these constant pains in the butt of like, just go along with it, for crying out loud. Just go along with it. I feel like that's what we've been cast into this world where we just keep getting told, like, go along with it. And we're like,
Yeah. The first
nah,
lie.
nah.
That's the first lie. Oh, everything is just the way it is. It happened naturally. It just happened naturally. Go along with it, Jim Pine. Go along with it. Well, you know what, bro? For us, Age of Aquarius has always been when everyone kind of gets it. Like you kind of just see, like, hey, this is a bunch of bullshit how this place is run. Let's change it.
Oh my
Because,
God.
yeah,
Just I literally I bow to you, bro. I freaking bow to you, bro. Like that's it. That's why we're here. We're here to question the nonsense. Like, will you allow the nonsense? And it's like, unfortunately, huge swaths of people are like, I'll go along with the nonsense. And we're just over here like, you know what? We're gonna create a podcast and we're gonna create a channel and we're gonna put it on YouTube and Spotify and iTunes and wherever else you can find us. And we're gonna call it Agents of Aquarius to question the time and to question the moment where we're at. And here we are. And we are questioning it. We're questioning the time because we're in the time. We're in the time of the unveiling. We're in the time of the breaking. It's all falling apart. The phoenix is rising. And we're just looking at the ashes right now, going, oh shoot, it all burned down.
yeah, man. All right.
Phoenix is rising, bro.
Like, yes, yes, it is.
Any closing? No, you know what? Well, okay, hold on. So we always do this one segment, and this is probably why people are even listening right now. They've just been fast forwarding, waiting to hear break the news. Break the news. Break the news. And here it is. You want we're breaking here actually today. We're doing our biggest break the news ever. Isn't this the biggest one ever?
Yeah, this is the most important bit of news that's hit the wires just today, no less. Go
Okay,
ahead and tell us
so
what it is.
breaking news. It's all bullshit.
The entire news cycle
It's
is nothing
bullshit.
but bullshit.
That's our break the news. I looked hold on. You know, that's not fair. That's not fair because we always do. It's like Google sponsored, like because we always like look up the news.
No, bro, it
No,
says here,
no,
Reuters, direct from Reuters. The news is bullshit. That was the headline today.
really?
Yes.
Hold on. I'm gonna look on Google. Hold on. Just give me a second. I'm looking up. And you okay. It's spelling news weird. It has an H in it. I don't know why. Okay. Oh yeah, it says right here, break the news. On Google, it says it's all bullshit. It's all fucking lie, dude. They're fucking programming your mind and making you think like, oh my god, man. No, it's fucking a lie. They've got
Yeah.
you. They've got us. They've got us
Bro,
hooked.
the same people that own BlackRock and State Street Capital and all the big banks and the same people that own the Federal Reserve, they own those media companies that bought them a long time ago. This is the oldest game in forever. And everything that they're telling you is just to further their own ends. Now, they might tell you some shit that seems like important. They might tell you some shit that is really touching, like the puppy segment on the local news. Whatever it is, they're feeding you this stuff ultimately with the intention of serving their own purposes, which is basically taking everything from you, including your freedom and your power to self-sovereignty, and they're handing it off to themselves. So you will own nothing, but you know what? You're not going to be happy. So don't let them do it.
So are you trying to tell me that they're trying to create a narrative and tell everybody the narrative and be like, hey, the emperor is wearing clothes. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
That's what I'm trying to tell you, brother.
Roseanne Barr kind of screams about this a lot, and I love it. Roseanne Barr moment. But it's the emperor wears no clothes. The idea being they're telling us one thing that's happening. They're creating a narrative that spells a certain story. And the whole time the story is like, no. The emperor is wearing really nice clothes. The whole time he's walking naked. By the way, he's naked.
If
Just
you don't know the story, that's how it goes.
he's walking around naked.
Saggy butt cheeks, little dick all over the place. Just,
Oh
yep.
yeah, just sniffing chicks' hair, the whole thing. That's a good day. That's just a good day. And then here we are. And then they're like, no, he's wearing clothes. Everybody was just told you have to wear clothes. It's almost like the way they spell out North Korea. Like they're like, oh, that's the way it is over there. You just do it. You know, that's the way it is. We've always done it this way. And the emperor's naked. And we need to stop sitting here and pretending the emperor's naked.
No,
I'm sorry,
yeah,
pretend that he's wearing
yeah.
clothes. The lie. We have to stop pretending the lie of this world. We have to stop pretending these politicians are out to help. Like, do you see what's happening around you?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we are not doom bringers. We always end this podcast on a positive moment. If anything, I feel like this entire podcast has completely been in a positive light, in a positive direction. Because we're just trying to point out the obvious that there's a weird naked guy walking around saying he's the emperor.
His saggy butt cheeks are telling a different story.
Nobody wants to see your balls, dude.
Holy cow.
Well, have we come to the point?
Yeah.
All right,
Yep.
this is the
Well
point
played,
of
sir.
it. This is the point.